Alabama right now sits with the #2 national recruiting class. But what does that mean? And what about Ty Haywood? We're going to get into that right here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Let's get this show started. Let's talk a little Bama and this recruiting class. Gillispie here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel, and it's time to talk recruiting. Bama yesterday, kind of the calm after the storm, where they put together right now the #2 national early recruiting class. Now, remember, there's another period, some time off, and then in February you have a chance to, to ink the rest of the guys. And one of the players that we didn't talk about a lot and probably should be talked about is 5-star offensive tackle Ty Haywood out of Denton, Texas. And he's a 5-star in most of the publications. He is someone that grew up an Alabama fan. He's from Mississippi, but then ended up moving to Texas. And this was a guy that Alabama was really excited about. On3 has him as the 22nd best national player, all the players, and then the number 5 player at his position. And we're thinking, okay, this guy's going to be a big part of this Alabama recruiting class. Now they're doing fine as far as like offensive line help, but this is a guy that has been committed for a while that we expected to be a huge part of this Alabama future, and he didn't sign on signing day. And what really everyone's reporting 24/7 On3, all these services, is that he's going to take time and make the decision in February. But what you're really hearing is that he's shopping himself around. He's going to see how much money he can get, and then that's going to determine where he's going to end up going to college. That that he's going to throw a number out. Alabama will try to match that. Maybe they won't. Who knows? But that's where we are right now for some of these blue chip recruits. And so what does this mean for Alabama's recruiting class? Well, Clint Lamb on Cover Crimson said, hey, man, the floor's #3. If he doesn't end up at Alabama, maybe they end up at #3 nationally. Still a fantastic class. So we'll find out what happens here. But it's just something to talk about when you look at, just how strong the class is. But I think that even more so that we're going to see a lot more of this as college football goes on, until they have rules and guidelines on people that, as far as money goes. And I mean, this guy, look, and I'm not holding it against him or anyone else. I mean, the open market's out there, the free market. Hey, who's going to pay you the most? You're seeing teams like Michigan jump in there and, they're going to pay as much money as they have to be competitive. Ohio State just spent $20 million. For Haywood, apparently he's going to take visits to UCLA, TCU, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Florida State. Who knows if he ends up at Michigan? They're going to try to get him there. And the shame of it is the guy's been a lifelong Alabama fan, and I'm sure loves Alabama. But you just, and this is what kind of on the other side of this, is until they put rules up there, you really feel bad for the teams and basically the structure, because, you can really hold teams hostage. But at the same time, I don't blame the players for going out there and saying, hey, man, what's my market value? And then trying to make that market value, as a commodity, but they just obviously at some point they need to do something about that, and and put some kind of guidelines up there, so that this doesn't happen. But and basically say, hey, here's how much money. But I don't know how they would do that without making these players employees. So there's a lot more to it than just, hey, we want this guy to to stay. Now, there's been a lot of rumors about Ryan Williams transferring, the Alabama star wide receiver. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's pretty happy in Tuscaloosa. Some of that's just, obviously just banter and smoke, but he's another guy that's going to get paid a lot in the NIL, So for Alabama, they have to do the most they can do. And obviously this is all of us involved to just help build money to this NIL before there's a structure in place, or they're going to lose out on some of the best players in the country. And when you hear of, some schools like Tennessee, they're talking about adding a tax to their tickets for NIL. They're talking about building a business district around Neyland Stadium to help raise money. Alabama's got to get creative the same way, or they're going to be left behind. And what I wanted to tell you guys is this, is that for years, Alabama, and I was in school at this time, between Gene Stallings and Coach Saban, Bama was irrelevant. And the stadium was out of date. The facilities weren't any good. And it really affected the coach's ability to go out there and bring in talent. And Mal Moore, Coach Moore, became the athletic director. And what he did was he went out and he raised money, not to just build the Bryant-Denny Stadium up to standard, but to build it exceeding standard. And that helped lead Alabama. And when they got Nick Saban, it was like the perfect storm. It wasn't just Nick Saban's coaching and recruiting. It was also what all of us bring to the table, the excitement of Alabama football, the history, and the facilities. And I think we're at a crossroads right now where we're kind of back in that same spot where we've got to be creative, not just trying to keep up with everyone else, but we've got to exceed what everyone else is doing. And this athletic department has shown that there's an unwillingness to kind of embrace where we are right now as far as the NIL game goes. And I think a lot of us have been kind of there with them, a little bit hesitant of saying, hey, we got to go all in on this NIL. But the problem is that if you don't, you're going to get outbid for some of the cream of the crop players. And those guys are 5-stars for a reason. Now, I think Alabama will make up for it just fine in the transfer portal. That's somewhere where Kalen DeBoer has done an excellent job as a head coach. But to get to the point where we are and where we've been, where you're competing for national championships year after year after year, you're going to have great players. And you're going to see more of this, where guys that are blue chip, that are special talents, are going to basically be out there and going out and waiting and seeing what their value is and trying to run up the price. And look, I mean, Haywood could go out, break his leg, and never play football again. Or maybe he's not that good at it. We don't know. I mean, he could get out there and not be any good. And that money that he's getting might be the most money he's ever making in his life, if he doesn't make it to the NFL. So I'm not holding it against these guys. But what I'm saying is, for Alabama's sake, is that they better look around and see what's happening with not just the average everyday program, but places, like I said, Tennessee. Keep an eye on what they're doing. Adding a tax, building a business district around Neyland Stadium, figuring out a way to raise money. And Alabama needs to be being creative like that too, or we're going to look up and it's going to be, the early 2000s Alabama again. And I don't think any of us want to go through that. Give me your opinion, guys. I want to remind you that we're brought to you by Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thank you for hanging out with us as always. And don't forget that now's a great time to go to the Timeout Sports Lounge. Put a little money down, man. The NFL is exciting right now. A lot of things going on there. We got eventually the Super Bowl, the NFL playoffs, the college football playoffs, college basketball. How about Alabama just taking North Carolina to the woodshed at their own gym? All of those things happening right now. You can go to Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and you can wager on all of those. So take advantage of that. Thanks for hanging out with us. And guys, we will talk to you again tomorrow. Roll Tide.
To Pearl River Resort.